Don Charles will punch you in the face. Yeah, but will he punch Zhang in his face? Oh, I doubt it. Oh, no. Now, Zhang, he doesn't believe it was a legal blow. He believes it was low, below the navel. He says Dubois did not use his physical advantages. And he says he basically quit. Dubois needs to work on his heart. Now, do we apply this line in the sand to boxers who take the same risks as Dubois? This is on the day I've made a decision not to use that 4-letter word to describe a boxer's testicular fortitude when in a position whether he should carry on or call it a day. I won't use that 4-letter word. But what about boxers like Zhang? Do you draw the line in the sand for them as well? He's taking the same risks as Dubois. You can't say to Zhang, you don't know what it's like to get hit in the body and your legs lock up. You can't tell Zhang you've never boxed at this level. And if we do draw the line in the sand for professional boxers like Zhang, what's the fallout from that? Okay, a mouthy YouTuber like me, yeah, I'll stop calling boxers quitters. And I think that's fair enough as well. I don't know what it's like to be a professional boxer, being pushed to the edge of my endurance. I haven't got a clue. But what about Zhang? What are the implications if we draw the line in the sand for the likes of Zhang? He can't say you quit. Well, how will boxers learn? How will boxers learn? When you're a kid, you know not to put your hand on the stove, on the hot stove, by putting your hand on it and getting burnt. If boxers like Zhang are soft on boxers like Dubois, oh, it's not a problem, Daniel. You can quit again in your next fight and you're still more of a warrior than all them couch potatoes calling you a quitter. How do you develop that rough exterior in boxing? You get it by getting challenged, physically and verbally. You see, a lot of people are saying Chris Eubank Sr. is not in his right state of mind. And that may be true. He's lost his son. We've got to take that into consideration. But do I believe he wouldn't say his silence says it all when he didn't reply to Simon Jordan calling his son a charlatan? Do you know how tough Chris was on his son? He put him in the ring with Erislandy Savon to take a beating to prove that, yeah, you are tough enough to box. The gym I went to, Tottenham Enterprise, back in the day, this is before the politically correct environment we live in today, and there was a lot of harsh language from the coaches and a lot of the elder dudes in the gym. Harsh language, and this was an amateur gym.
That he can lick any man in the house.
He's just brutal on the sparring partners. He runs out of more sparring partners than anyone.
Come on, what? Come on, what? Come on, what, bitch?
Tony first made his reputation in crowded Detroit gyms where survival was victory.
These guys was killing me every day. They wouldn't take it easy on me, so why should I take it easy on the heavyweight guys today? Come on, what? Come on, what? You scary bitch?
Trash talking starts in the beginning of the ring, and it doesn't end until we leave the gym.
I'll bust you up. I'll bust you up, boy.
He talked about my mom, my sisters, my brother. He talked about everybody in my family, and it got to me.
Oh, my God, it's happened. Busting him up.
Well, why ain't coming Puerto Rican? Hell no, I'm Mexican.
That's your beans right, bitch. Can't fuck with me, boy.
No, there's times you get to me mentally, your mama or your baby mama or...
Stop up little beans, hater. Boxing is about learning your craft. I'm teaching guys how to learn their craft. That's up to them. If they want to take it and run with it, I'm not going to force it upon them.
Boxing is about learning your craft. I'm teaching these guys to learn their craft. They can either take it or run with it or get it forced upon them. Kronk Gym alumni, James Toney. Tyson Fury even says, I can criticize Anthony Joshua because we are rivals in the same discipline, in the same sport, trying to achieve similar goals. He said, you can't be sitting on the couch criticizing Anthony Joshua when you can't do what he does and you're not nowhere near as successful as he is. I'm quoting Tyson Fury, paraphrasing. And it's funny, you know, like, the video's there. I said, yeah, I'm going to stop calling boxers quitters. But when I said it, I didn't think about, what about boxers themselves, current or ex-boxers? Especially the ex-boxers who went through way more harsher gym environments than today. Unless you're in a doghouse spar in the Mayweather gym, or some of them gyms in Philly, which are still pretty harsh environments. Ask Boots Ennis and his dad Bozy. Yeah, do we put a cap on boxers? Whether they can call other boxers quitters? Now, if you're observing this video, I'm not telling you you have to stop calling boxers quitters. I'm not telling you that. Think for yourself. Think for yourself. Your opinions on what Zhang had to say about it. Is it acceptable if Zhang says it? Or other boxers? Let me know your thoughts. Funny, yesterday I was watching Fran Sands, a British boxing coach. I was watching one of his videos, and that's where I got Tyson Fury with his protector really high in that still photo from the Klitschko fight. And today I'm finding out Tyson Fury is actually responding to USYK wearing these high trunks, and this is not a meme, some high trunks on Instagram. He didn't say USYK's name, but in response to USYK calling Fury greedy belly, Tyson is calling him soft belly. But Receipt Gang is in the building. USYK's trunks are nowhere near as high, or the protector is nowhere near as high as Tyson Fury's in this still shot here. Tyson Fury has got his navel buried. In some shots you can barely see USYK's navel. Unless Tyson Fury's navel is near up by his heart, you're busted.
KALLE there's been a lot of talk over the last couple of weeks about.
It'll be a very interesting discussion if Frank is successful in that, and then you know he's got to do the IBF anyways next. Then it would be the WBA theoretically. Imagine he blocks himself with the Usyk Fury fight, or it could be Ergovic Fury fight at the unification. Imagine he blocks himself and has to explain to Tyson, oh no, I was lobbying for Daniel Dubois. That's going to be an interesting conversation for him to have.
So think about it. Who's USYK's next opponent? Is it Hergovic? That's the IBF. But if Tyson Fury comes through the Ngannou fight relatively unscathed, didn't Frank Warren say a Fury versus USYK showdown is still the plan for early 2024? Now these articles are post-fight, Daniel Dubois versus USYK. But he's also been telling the world and Daniel that he wants the contest to be declared a no contest and calls for a rematch. Well, how much does he really want that? Because if he separates the belts, like he gets the WBA to strip USYK, or he gets a rematch for Daniel Dubois, doesn't that contradict that he's going to try and make Tyson Fury USYK early 2024? When's the rematch for Dubois going to take place? You get USYK stripped from the WBA belt. Well, that means Daniel Dubois is going to fight for it? Not necessarily, not at all. Philip Hergovic, Eddie Hearn, and KALLE won't have something to say about that? Of course they will. USYK end up being stripped of more than just a WBA strap. And if Frank plans to make USYK versus Fury, there'd only be 3 belts on the line, because Frank got USYK stripped. It could be 2 belts on the line if USYK is forced to forfeit the IBF for not fulfilling his obligation to fight Hergovic. So all this Frank wants to make it a no contest or a rematch is just hot air to get some traction for Daniel. Try to salvage something out of the event to get Daniel some extra press, extra clout, if you like. The last thing Frank is going to do is go fuck with USYK's belts and then go explain to the Saudi Arabians, yeah, I can't make the undisputed fight because I want to get Daniel a rematch. Really? Daniel, if you're listening, which you're not getting a rematch, and they're not going to change the fight to a no contest. Not with all that money out there in Saudi that Frank, Bob Arum and Tyson Fury are going to be looking at after the Ngannou fight.
I hate to end the interview in a sort of negative, but this month, I think it's literally been every week this month, we've seen a new high-profile fighter, better use political language here, returning adverse to analytical finding. Just as a trainer, that Rotunda gym sort of esteemed in boxing, sort of folklore in this country, like what sort of, does it ever get you disillusioned with the sport? I think that's the sentiment to see from a lot of fans online.
Who's that, sorry?
Just all the high profile fighters that have been tested. Does it ever sort of make you think, like, what sort of state's boxing in, how rampant is it?
Yeah, look, I've stated this morning on, I commented, and it's not like me, but Chris made a comment saying he was giving the likes of Conor Benn and Robert Arenas and others a bit of shit because he's just had a piss test. I ain't seen no Vada for this one. Vada hasn't walked in my gym and tested Liam Smith once. So what's he bragging about getting tested off UKAD for?
Ben Shalom won't be too happy with Joe McNally, Liam Smith's trainer. Just snitched them up. There's no Vada testing for EUBANK and Liam Smith. This is one of the biggest high-profile fights in the UK this year so far. Now, it doesn't say a lot for the state of domestic boxing right now in the UK. It doesn't. But that's the state of play. This is a pay-per-view fight, which is drawing attention from media everywhere. Liam Smith ranked number 3 by the WBC, number 2 by the WBO. Chris Eubank ranked number 5 by the WBC, number 11 by the WBO. The winner, with the fragmented state of the middleweight division, could easily walk into a world title fight, next fight, after this. Hey, I thought Vada was supposed to be the gold standard. Everybody's saying it's suspect without Vada. He said Vada haven't walked into the gym and tested Liam Smith. Where's TalkSport? I'm assuming they've enrolled in the clean boxing program because Liam Smith is ranked number 3 and Eubank is ranked number 5. But it's not enough just enrolling in the program, we know that. You have to pay out the adequate amount to get proper testing for a fight this magnitude, which they haven't done. And it leads to the next question is, if you're not paying out for testing for this fight, how much testing have you paid out outside UKAD for testing for previous boxer Sky cards this year?
Chris Eubank Jr. posted a picture today on Twitter of him being tested, so there is testing for this fight.
Of course there is. Yeah. You know.
UKAD testing. UKAD. Any Vada testing, KALLE?
Yeah, no. There's testing. They're both British board, so they're both being UKAD tested. Absolutely, yeah. He did.
Vada.
He had a test this morning. No, Vada's, it's an extra layer you can take for international fights or for domestic fights if you want. But you saw now it all comes back to UKAD anyway. So it's sort of a question of, like.
Answer the question, KALLE. Yes or no? Vada testing.
Either you respect UKAD.
Man, you stuttering like that. That's effects. So digging it up for the.
Or you don't. And if you're a British licensed fighter, you're UKAD. So.
No. If you're a British licensed fighter, you're UKAD. No. If you're an international player, you need more layers, like you say. Extra layers. You say Vada's an extra layer. For a fight of this magnitude, if you don't want to come under scrutiny, we've got Wasserman, who's putting on a card tomorrow with Lyndon Arthur versus Suarez. Guarantee no Vada testing. No Vada testing. You got Wasserman and Boxer coalition for world rank positions at 160. No Vada testing. No extra layers. Not even no drug free. And look, I said this from years back when everyone was propping up Vada on a pedestal. This is what it's going to come down to. If you're a relatively big promoter with relatively big fights and you don't have Vada, now they've become a monopoly. You're going to come under scrutiny and you're going to look suspect. Yo, Ben, you're going to have to come out your corner and stop hiding. Because Ben does that, right? Ben hides in press conference and screens what questions that they can ask him. Yo, listen. People are going to want to know why you ain't got Vada testing, because that's the popular thing right now. If you're a big promoter, you got to have Vada testing. I don't think Ben has to worry about Victor Conte getting on his back because he's not big enough. But nevertheless, you're on Sky. Sky are a juggernaut in this country. And Eddie's talking about this testing pool for Matchroom fighters, a 24/7 year-round testing pool. He says here it costs around $30,000 per fight to do testing for Vada. It's generally about 12 tests during that period. So on a 10-fight card, you have to spend out at least 300 grand on testing alone. So they're looking at the alternatives. Do they introduce their own testing pool like the UFC? The UFC do it with USADA. Matchroom's preferred choice would be with Vada. And if you're a Matchroom fighter, you will have to enroll in the Vada testing program. You have to enroll. Eddie doesn't believe the WBC clean boxing program is great for it to be extensive enough. And that's being proven here because both Eubank and Smith are ranked by the WBC. So that means they would have had to have enlisted in the clean boxing program. But McNally just snitched up the game that Liam Smith hasn't been tested by Vada once. Not for this fight anyway. Because Eubank was apparently boasting that he got tested by UKAD and came up clean. And McNally says, why is he bragging about that? There's no Vada testing. Now, he wasn't supposed to say that. He wasn't supposed to say that, but you take a trip up Merseyside, a lot of them are straight shooters, and he just didn't give a damn. Whether it put Ben Shalom or whoever at Sky and Hot Water, he just said it as it was. So EUBANK posted another drugs test this morning. All these fighters failing tests recently, making boxing look bad, but don't worry. They're still clean athletes representing the sport we love. Hashtag Smith and EUBANK too. But he couldn't help himself, could he? He tagged Conor Benn, Robert Helenius, Dillian White, and Alicia Bogado to the post. Let's say Spence Crawford 1 was a genuinely evenly contested fight that perhaps went the distance first scenario, or maybe Spence was ahead on the scorecards and Crawford caught him up in the 11th and 12th and pulled it back. Maybe it was a controversial stoppage. I have no doubt that Errol Spence would have activated the rematch clause straight away. But because of the one-sided nature of the first fight and the beating he took, it's a decision that his team, Derek James, probably had to deliberate over very carefully. It's alright, having a lot of bravado and saying, yeah, everything's okay and he'll rectify all the mistakes he made in the first fight and just deal with the matter in the second fight. It's easy saying that, but we all saw the fight. There's a lot to consider. So they took their time. I don't know how much time he had to activate the rematch clause, but maybe that time was coming up as well, so we had to make a decision. And kudos for taking on a fight against an opponent who has not just a little more skill than him, but a lot more, a whole lot more. And I always believed that before the fight, and I got confirmation in the actual fight. There's no way you can be yourself post-fight after a beating like that. There's no way. And Errol went on the mic and said he wants to run it back in December very quickly post-fight. And pride, not wanting to look soft in front of the public, the media, his fans. He doesn't want to look weak, so he's activated the rematch clause. Although, if he took 2 more fights to perhaps find his feet and put a little more space in between the first fight, I think Crawford would have gave him a year and a half to have a couple more fights, maybe 1 tune-up and then take the fight. I don't think he would just welch out and say, I don't need to fight him no more. But Spence obviously feels pressured to try and get it back as quick as possible. But you can't rush these things with Terence Crawford. You might want to just get back in there and erase the memory of what happened quickly. But this is Terence Crawford. You don't have them options. You don't have them options. You have to prep correctly to fight that guy in his prime. And the likely outcome is Terence will stop him, maybe even quicker. And what does Spence do after that? So I was just listening to Coach Malachi. Crawford has the right of refusal, which means he can dictate which weight the fight is fought at. He can run it back at 147 or 154. Now, he said he was having trouble making the weight himself. These guys are no spring chickens. They should have been at 154 a long time ago. Crawford and Spence should have happened 2 to 3 years back. Spence will probably be happier at 154. And let's see if it does make a difference, because a lot of people are rationalizing that he was drained and 154 will see an improved performance. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully Terence makes it at 154, because the way I see it, I don't want no excuses. And Spence doesn't make no excuses. His fans do. I don't want no excuses this time around. Although there inevitably will be, because the supporters of Spence and Wilder, they just believe that no one can beat the fighters they're fans of unless they cheat. Or at least something was wrong with their fighter. They were drained, they were ill, they were sick. There has to be some excuse or some liability on the opponent. Sad.